Okay, part two, guys. So, start out with a little flexing. All right. So, in terms of the stock market, I'm going to give you an example. There are two ways that it can be looked at in terms of opportunities. One, when I was saying if you see the trend of things, you put your money where the money is going and more money is flowing. Okay. Or the way that is a little bit riskier, takes a little bit more time, but can pay bigger dividends in the end, is like this is one of the things that I did in the beginning when the stock market crashed. I said, where are there the most restrictions and the money is flowing out of, but I believe that the money will flow back to? Okay. So, for example, Uber. Okay, with less people traveling around because there were stay-at-home orders, how well do you think Uber was doing? Uber was doing terrible, right? Less people traveling around. So Uber stock went from like $40 a share down to around $14 a share. And I actually picked some up at around, I think it was like $19 a share. I bought some more at $17 a share and then at $14 a share, pretty much at the bottom. So let's just say the average was $17 a share. You know where Uber stock is right now? It's at 50. So I want you to think about that. Say, for example, you had $5,000 saved up in your savings. And you said to yourself, you know what? Uber stock has crashed. At some point, people are going to travel again. I'm going to take some of that money, make sure I still have money left over, and I'm going to put it in Uber. So let's say you had $5,000. Maybe you had $10,000 saved up, okay? And you put $1,700 into Uber stock when it was $17 a share. So you bought 100 shares, okay? So 100 shares times 17, 1,700. So you buy those 100 shares at $17 a share. What would that be worth now? $5,000. So let's just go back now and say you had $5,000 in savings. So basically, you just increased your savings by around 80%. You went from $1,700 investment, and it went now Uber's around $50 a share. So now you turn $1,700 into $5,000 in the course of about 9 months. So what did you make as far as a return on your money in that case? That's like 300%. Okay, where can you make 300% on your money? You can't do that in the bank. And most normal investments pay you 10% or under a year. That's 300%. So the thing is, the risk, the whole thing is in situations like that, all you have to do is ask yourself, is that company I'm investing in going out of business? Do I think there's a return of money to flow back in that direction? Like I said, there's a flow. I like how my pecs look like that. What do you guys think? Right? Good shadow and lighting. So the flow of the muscles, right? Okay. So now, for example, Amazon stock, everyone knows that money was flowing to Amazon. And I think Amazon stock went up. It never went down. It went up like 75% during the course of the year, which is freaking phenomenal. Okay. But technically you would make more money if you bought Uber stock when it had crashed and then it went up 300%. Okay. So, or 200, whatever. It went up a lot, right? It went up more than Amazon did, but Amazon was the more sure bet. So one of the things that's a good idea is to have a mix of both. Where the money is flowing currently, putting money toward that, putting money toward the winners, and then putting some money towards things where the money was removed, but you believe the money is going to go back to. And that just take a level of intellect and looking at the trends, right? Because I believe that the restrictions were temporary. So, and I'm getting paid off because of that. Now, think about it this way. In 2008, during that financial crash at that point, there was all these uprisings. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a lot of like protests, the against Wall Street and all those things like that. It's the same kind of thing that happens in any financial crisis, that people protest. And here's what the government did. And here's what Barack Obama, what Obama was doing was he was blaming it on Wall Street. but in fact it's government policies. The enemy is always the government. They made the regulations that created the subprime mortgage collapse. They reduced the amount of credit somebody needed in order to be able to own a home. And it created a situation where they were lending money to people that couldn't pay it back. And it created a housing collapse, all right? Because under this Clinton idea of wanted everyone to have a home, whether or not they could actually afford it, all right? So that created an entire debacle that began based on bad government policies. That's why, as I said, the government has always been the enemy. Wall Street is not your enemy. And the easiest way, and one of the things I remember, Obama at the time was pitting Main Street versus Wall Street and all those things like that. And as if you understand what Wall Street is, that it's an opportunity for Main Street, it's not your enemy. Your enemy is the government that creates policies that create these bubbles and these bursts. That's what happens. So think about it this way. All of these big companies, all of these banks, everyone where they're like, oh, well, they have all the money, these big businesses are terrible. Well, guess what? You wouldn't think those big businesses are terrible if you had your money in their stocks and their stocks were going up. And if they pay a dividend and they're paying you every 3 months a percentage of their profits, you're going to sit back and be like, I love me some big business because they're paying my bills. They're making it possible for me to go on vacations, take my girl out, do whatever, making me rich, things like that, okay? So that's why it's so important, to not, let's say, just spend all your money, is to have a portion of whatever your income is and put it into your savings, all right? So that's just giving you, some safety, and a portion of your income that's going into the stock market. Because you know what? Honestly, you can sit back and laugh when you see somebody like Jeff Bezos, who's richest man in the world, is worth $150 billion. Like, oh, I wish I could be like him or something like this. Well, be your own best self. And one of the things that you can sit back, and I'm saying this again, and laugh about, is if you buy Amazon stock, the richest man in the world is making you money. Now that's America. Don't look at those guys like they're your enemy. The government is your enemy. The government is the one that's shutting down businesses, taking away your jobs, making your life uncomfortable. Big businesses are not doing, big businesses, especially these public companies, they're, by being public, giving you an opportunity to make money from everything that they're doing. So if you really think about it, how awesome that is. I mean, I put my money and investments into myself and other businesses that had nothing to do with the stock market. But with everything that I've learned now since COVID, I've completely changed my view and turned it around and realized, hold on a second, I can make so much more money having money that I would otherwise save go into the stocks of companies that are doing great, or ones I think are good turnaround stories. And I'm going to say it again. Anytime that you think, gas is so expensive, or iPhones are so expensive, or whatever it is, go put your money in their stock. So as they're doing well in their business, you're doing well. The beautiful thing about the stock market is that everybody can make money from it. Everybody can be doing well. Now, clearly, though, at any given time, there's a series of businesses that do well and whose stocks go up, and there's ones who go down. So technically, you have to be a good stock picker if you want to do it like that, if you want to outperform the market. You can just bet on the S&P or the NASDAQ and just bet that's going to go up, and you're not betting on individual stocks. I like to bet on individual stocks. There's a higher return for the extra work I put in. And so you guys know, in the last 10 months, I have put an average of between 12 and 16 hours a day studying on the stock market. I mean, during the week, I probably read 30 to 50 articles in a day and watch CNBC for like 8 to 10 hours. All right, so that's what I've been doing to maximize it. Now, as people, let's say people who don't have their jobs, they have the internet, they can go on the web and they can watch and learn the same things that I'm learning. But if you're just at home fucking around, playing games, not really doing anything, well, you're missing out on the opportunities, okay? Everybody has a cell phone these days. Like I said, even fucking homeless people have cell phones these days. So we all can learn. And a homeless person could probably set up a stock account because those guys, they panhandle, they make money too. So, and here's the beautiful thing about the stock market these days as opposed to, say, like 30 years ago. Like 30 years ago, the stock market really was more of an elitist club. It was more for the rich corporate type. And trading was very expensive, so you had to have a lot of money. Now trading is free. You can buy and sell 1,000 times and it costs you nothing. Costs you nothing. Okay, it's for free. Very few things in this world are free. That is free. Your opportunity to make money is free. Think about that. And everybody can save something. Everyone can save something. So, because it's free and there's no minimum. There's no minimum, like, you don't need to have $50,000 to start a trading account. Back in the day, you had to have a lot of money in order to do it. You don't now. You could have $200 and start. You could have 500 that you've just had saved that you said, I'm never going to touch this, right? If that's just what you have, the 500, and you'd rather have it in cash, have it in cash, right? I would never tell anybody put your savings that you really, really need in there. It's a portion of your savings that you allow to go into the stock market, okay? Because you always have to have cash in case something happens. You got to be able to grab it. But the great thing about the stock market is it's completely liquid. It means that if you needed that money, you could sell it right away and you would get that money. But it's so important to have cash at the same time. So the money you put in the stock market should not be all of your savings, simply a portion. Could be maybe, 80%, and you keep 20% of your cash on the side. It could be 50%. It's all based on your risk, the level of risk you're comfortable with. And the risk is really about that there's these ebbs and flows in the stock market. But, it just takes time and study to understand it. And like I said, one of the things as a practice, even before you put your money in the stock market, you guys cool with that? I'm cool with this, good lighting. Yeah. So even in this COVID, I mean, guys, I'm in my 40s. And I look like this, and I'm in shape. I want every part of my life to be fantastic, all right? And, health is the number one important thing. And when your health is right, everything else, it's just like when your money is right, that's a vehicle, through which you can express yourself more powerfully. When your health is right, same thing, you can express everything you are more powerfully. So that's important. Take care of your body. Take care of your body. And even though the government doesn't want your body to be in good shape because they have the gyms shut down, all those things. I mean, you see, government doesn't give a shit about anybody but itself, all right? The whole thing with the government and why it's your enemy is that they want things to be wrong. Why do they want things to be wrong? Because they need something to convince you as a reason to focus on them, to get them in office, to keep them in power. All right? If they didn't convince you that there were things that were wrong that they could fix somehow, why would you even pay attention to them? They're the ones that create the problems. And so what they do is then they say, well, we're telling you we're the solution to problems, and they point the problems as being created by somebody else, not them. Like I said, consider this, that the COVID affects a very small amount of people percentage-wise, but their lockdowns and restrictions affect so many people. And so what do? They don't blame it on themselves. All the destruction, the economic destruction and distress that's caused mentally, emotionally, sexually, all those things, they blame it on COVID. Oh my God, we got to defeat the virus. No, what we have to defeat is the government. What we have to do is defeat their mandates. What we have to do is put ourselves in more powerful positions so that we can survive and thrive through their manipulation and abuse. Or rather, in spite of their manipulation and abuse. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to study and get into the stock market, to become more financially stable and powerful, to be able to live out your dreams okay? And at the same time, avoid being a prisoner or made a victim by the government. That way you could be a Batman or an Iron Man and you just have, wealth that cannot be touched because it's a part of the market. Like, for example, if you have stock in Apple or Amazon, in order for that wealth not to be there, Amazon would have to be gone, right? Amazon is not going anywhere. They're still growing. So, okay, so that's the end of part 2. So hope you guys enjoy, like, comment, and all that stuff. And of course, appreciate what I'm doing with my physique. I've had my share of tough times during this, and I'm happy to come out looking good, sounding good, and coming out more powerful than ever. All right, guys.